Hey everybody, I'm Chad.
I'm Chris. We're the creators of Order of Eventide, the pen and paper role-playing game.
Today we're going to be going over Dungeoneering, how to find a dungeon, how to navigate a dungeon, and how to get out of a dungeon, hopefully alive.
Hopefully. Are you ready?
Let's dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, our party is ready to dive into a dungeon, so let's learn how. We're going to go over how to pick a region that's appropriate for your party. We're going to learn how to find a dungeon. We're going to learn how to navigate through that dungeon. We're going to go over the different roles that each of the party members can take. And then we're also going to go over how to finish and exit that dungeon. So going back to our roles, we've identified 4 roles that are helpful for the party to have that help speed the game along and kind of cut down on the amount of housekeeping that each player has to do. So let's go over those. We are going to give everyone, make sure that they have their hero sheets. So we have our 4 pre-made heroes that, here in our party. We've got Taravar, Marthak, Ash, and Lars. And so first we are going to take Lars. He is going to be our party leader. The party leader is going to take responsibility and drive the group through the dungeon, making decisions, making sure that they don't get hung up. So thank you, Lars, for being the party leader. Next is going to be the archivist. We will have Ash be the archivist. The archivist is the one who, while we're going through the dungeon, is rolling on the tables and is looking at what each of the results are and reading those out to the party members. So they are the ones who are actually doing the rolling. So thank you, Ash, for being our archivist. Next is our tactician. Marthak is going to be our tactician, and that is all about combat. So they're going to use the combat sheet, so make sure to give them one. This is one that we printed out from orderofeventide.com, or they can use the ones in the back of the book. So Marthak is going to keep track of enemy health, the amount of enemies, status effects, everything that's going on there, which is great. Last but not least, Taravar is going to be our cartographer, who is going to be actually mapping out our dungeon as we are doing that, as we're going through each room. All right, so let's figure it out. Let's start a dungeon here. So first we're going to flip over to our quest compendium, which is on page 76. And this is going to show us all of our different regions. There are 6 regions, starting with Sundessa, which is the calmest region. You can see that it's recommended level 1 characters, which is where we're at right now. So that's the region we're going to choose. However, there are also other regions, such as Mantora, for characters who are level 2 or 3. You can see each one of these is color-coded, so it makes it easy to flip through and find what's going on. So we're going to pick Sundessa. We've written the region name here on the dungeon sheet to keep track of what's happening. We've also written our party members' names so that when we come back to this, we can sort through all of our different papers and things like that to make sure that we don't get confused. So now that we've chosen Sundessa, we want to find the dungeon name. Each dungeon is going to be unique. And the way that we represent that in Order of Eventide is with the lore and location. So in order to do this, we're going to roll a d6 for the lore, which is going to be a 4. So we have encountered a legendary, and then we're going to make another d6 roll for the location. That's 5, which is a tower. So we're now entering the legendary tower. So as the archivist rolls for these, they're also going to read this out to the rest of the party and get them in the mood for role-playing. So they would read out that awe washes over you as you step into a place where history and myth intertwine. The ground beneath your feet feels sacred, and every stone and tree seems to whisper tales of ancient heroes. And then they would also read out the tower description. And then, so Chris, if you could write down our legendary tower here and our dungeon name to keep track of where we're at. Now, as the cartographer is doing that, the archivist is then flipping over to the rooms page, which is where we're going to determine kind of what is happening throughout our dungeon. So when we enter the dungeon, which we've just done, we are going to put our party here, right here in the middle. This is where the entrance is. They take the ladder down into the entrance room, and then from there they have 4 directions that they can go: north, east, south, or west. So as the party leader, it is the party leader's role to decide where they go. The party leader is going to decide that the first room we go through is going to be north. So when they decide that they're going to go north, then the archivist rolls for the room table, which is 2d6. You can see right up here in the top corner. 2d6, make sure to add those together. 6 plus 4, which is 10. Looks like we have just encountered a combat room. All right, so our cartographer here is going to draw our combat room, starting from the little arrow on the bottom. That's where we're entering from, and then drawing the rest of the room there. So the combat room represents that we're starting a combat. We immediately are going to enter combat with one of the Forsaken enemies. So you can see here that each room has directions for how to interact with this room. So we're going to encounter enemies from the Forsaken table. It also tells us what the reward is once we defeat them. Once, not if we defeat them, but once we defeat them, being positive about our new party here. So here in the Forsaken table, the Archivist is going to roll 1d6, like it says in the top left corner. And this d6 is going to be a 6. So we have encountered a stone Arcos. And in order to figure out how many stone Arcoses we encounter, we're going to roll a d6 for the quantity. So we have encountered 4 stone Arcos. The tactician would then use the combat sheet to write down the enemy that we're facing, as well as the quantity by filling in the bubbles there. We're going to have another video with detailing combat, so we're not going to get too much into this, but just kind of giving you a little preview about how the tactician is going to start filling out that sheet. Okay, so provided that we get all the way through our combat, we win, we get the rewards, we've traveled into that room, we've done everything. We're then going to make sure to put a check mark next to that activity because we have completed that combat. You know, there's more to be found in every room beyond just the obvious. And so they want to search. So searching is here detailed on page 36. It shows exactly how to search and what we want to do. So in order to search, at least one person wants to search. In our example, we're going to have 3 of the heroes. They're feeling confident. They want to be able to search. And so we're going to have Taravar, Marthak, and Ash all want to participate in the search. So then what happens is the Archivist rolls on the search table here on this second page. They roll 1d6 as indicated in the top left corner. Looks like we've rolled a 5. All right. So we got glowstone. So every searching hero, which means the 3 that participated, Taravar, Marthak, and Ash, each of them roll for their own glowstone. So each of them is going to roll a d4 plus 1. And in our scenario, you keep on rolling until you get a 1 through 4. So for example, it would be 2 plus 1. They would get 3 glowstone out of that for specifically Ash. And then each character would then roll their own. So that's how to search. Great, that room out of the way. The party leader has decided that we are ready to move on. They want to move north again. So let's go ahead and roll. The Archivist is going to roll 2d6 on the room table to see what room it is. So for example purposes, since we already have done a combat, we are going to go for apparel and altar rooms. We've rolled room number 4, in which case the cartographer would then draw room number 4. And while they're doing that, the Archivist will be able to read out to the players what exactly is happening. So this room is a little bit special that there's 2 activities that happen in the same room, and you resolve them in that order. First, peril, and then you can resolve the altar. So first, let's take a look at the peril. On the next page, you can see that we have perils here. So the Archivist is going to roll 1d6 as indicated in the top left corner to see which peril we are going to face. Now, in this room that we have just entered, we found that snakes are in there. Oh, God. So a snake is going to be lunging at everyone here. We can see that all the heroes who are participating have to check 3 or suffer the consequences of cripple for having a lowered attack. And since we have entered into this as a room, then we're going to look at the room targeting where it says all heroes. So all heroes have traveled into this room. The peril is just sitting there. So all heroes are going to participate in this peril. So now each of our 4 heroes are going to roll their own check. Here and they're all going to try to get above 3 because when you check, you always have to roll above that number. So our first hero, Ash, did in fact make it, so nothing bad happens to Ash. Our next hero, Marthak, rolls. They rolled a 6. Very nice. Nothing happens to Marthak. Tarvar is going to roll as well. Tarvar, the whole party is rolling very well. No one's gotten bitten by snakes yet. And then Lars, I have a bad feeling about Lars. He rolls it 2. So Lars doesn't roll above the check number. So they do suffer cripple for attack -2. So our Lars is going to write in their hero sheet under the status column there. They're going to write cripple for attack -2. And they're going to suffer attack -2 either until it's cured or until they complete the next combat by killing all the enemies and resolving that combat. And you can see there he's written it. And he's also written down the effect in the status column for attack to remind him when he does make his attack that he has to, -2 from whatever roll he's normally doing. All right, so we've encountered our peril. Now that everyone has interacted with that, we've completed the peril. We can make a check mark next to that. So the next thing that we want to do is interact with this altar. So altars are a special structure inside of Order of Eventide, inside of these dungeons. These altars they're bustling with arcane energy that is being twisted and used by the Master Behemoths to bring darkness into the land of Valyria. So we're going to reclaim these altars. We're going to use them to summon the Master Behemoth, to defeat the Master Behemoth, and bring light back to Valyria. So, and this is the only way to do this as well. You're going to finding a lot of altars throughout your dungeons. You will want to activate them, each of the ones that you come across when it's the right time for you, to summon the Master Behemoth and clear the entire dungeon. So if we're ready to activate this altar, the party leader says, yes, I think we're ready. We talked to everybody. We're going to do it. So the archivist is going to roll on the altar a d6. And there they rolled a 3. Now, one thing about the altar is that you also add +1 to this roll for each previously activated altar and each behemoth that you've killed in the dungeon. So you can keep track of the altars that you've activated here, and you keep track of each of the behemoths that you've killed here. So it gets harder and harder as you progress through the dungeon, and you are more and more likely to encounter the Master Behemoth. So in this case, though, we rolled a straight 3, and that 3 is going to give us glory, which is going to recharge one weapon charges to the maximum, which is great. So if one of our heroes had already used their weapon charges, we can restore that, get a little bit of healing power going on, something like that. Not too bad. Now that that altar is activated, we're going to do 2 things. The cartographer is going to check off that activity in the room to mark it as complete, and they're also going to add 1 tally to the altar's mark to make sure that we're keeping track of that. And after resolving the peril, we could have gone and searched right away. We didn't have to activate the altar. We could have searched. We could have left the room. We just chose to activate it then. But now also that we've done this, at any time, as long as we're not being affected by a peril or combat, we can choose to search. So the party could choose to search here as well. So now that we have those 2 under our belt, let's keep going. Let's travel kind of east and north here. We're going to go north one more time and kind of abut to the end of it. So we're going to head north. The archivist is going to roll 2d6 for our room. Going to add those together. We're going to pretend that we rolled a 7 here for our event. So we have an event room up to the north, and as our cartographer is drawing that, they're going to kind of do their best to fit that into the existing space that we have here. And if they need to move a hallway, 1 square to the left or right, or to extend a hallway, that's okay to kind of like make the dungeon kind of fit together. But there are also going to be dead ends. In this case, we have a dead end right up into the edge of the map. That's okay. That is a part of the process. Not every exit in each room is going to lead to another room. So, nice. You added a little broken, collapsed doorway there. Add a little bit of role playing in. That's great. All right. So now that we've encountered this event, we're going to follow the directions here. We're going to roll D66 on the event table, which is page 112. So we have this here on page 112. The archivist is going to flip over to here, and they're going to roll D66, which means that they're going to roll 2 D6 and have one of them in the 10 slot and one of them in the 1 slot to make a single number that goes from 11 all the way to 66. So they can roll the first one. It's going to be 60 something. And it's going to be a 64. All right, so we've encountered event number 64. So the archivist would then read through this event and read it to the entire party. In this case, you meet a friendly flameling that asks to hear something interesting about yourself. One hero may check 2, which means they roll higher than a 2. If you pass, the flameling will reveal an additional room each time you explore during this dungeon. The effect ends when you interact with an altar. And then the party confers, and they decide that Lars is actually going to be the one who wants to talk to this friendly flameling. And so Lars is going to make a check here. He's going to roll 1d6 and try to get above a 2. Oh, failed again. Lars, you are really, you're really biting it this time. So he does not make a friendly conversation with that flameling. The flameling is probably offended at this point. He doesn't really like Lars. Lars made fun of him in some way. Make it fun. Make it role play fun. So we have now, unfortunately, completed this event without anything good coming out of it. So we'll put a check mark next to that event. We're going to take one final room in this dungeon as another example. So we are going to go south out of this room, going to go southward. And most of the rooms that we've been doing so far has been north, which means that each time we enter the room, we're entering from the bottom here, as these little arrows indicate. It's probably a little too small to see on the screen, but we're entering from the bottom. But this does indicate that you're entering from this side. So if we're not entering, going north, we're going to need to flip the cartographer is going to need to flip the dungeon sheet to match the direction that we're going. So since we're going this way, now we're going south, we flipped the sheet to then represent that we're entering that room. So the archivist is going to roll. We've rolled a 7 on the rooms table. So now we have another event room. Maybe Lars can make a better check and redeem himself a little bit. But we're going to, the cartographer is going to draw that room right on here. And you can see that there are going to be some collisions, and that's okay. Roll with it, play with it. In this case, maybe that's a staircase or a ladder or something that's kind of coming in and out of that room. That kind of makes this dungeon more dynamic. Very nice. Our party is here. Say we got totally thrashed. Our party is almost dead. We need to get out of here. How do we get out of the dungeon? Well, there are 2 ways to get out of the dungeon. The first one is to defeat the Master Behemoth. When you defeat the Master Behemoth after summoning them from the altar, defeating the Master Behemoth will unlock a temporary portal. The arcane energy is swirling, and it will allow you to escape the dungeon right then and there, if you choose to. If you don't choose to, then you'll need to backtrack to the surface, and we'll show you how to do that. So we have not defeated the Master Behemoth yet, so we're going to just backtrack and figure out how to do that. So we are here. We can backtrack a few different ways. We could go back the way we came, but I think it's going to be a little faster if we backtrack through this room that we've been created with this new stairway here, and backtrack to the entrance. So each time you backtrack, it means moving through a room that you've already moved through. And you can see here on page 38, it shows all of the details for backtracking and what happens when and where you might be ambushed. So that's the big danger about backtracking through rooms that you've already been through, is that you could be ambushed by a horde. So if we want to move west back to this room, we roll a d6. And if that d6 is a 1, we're going to get ambushed. Anything else, we're going to be safe. So if it's a 1, then we're going to get ambushed by a pack of horde here, just like it says. But if it's something else, then we're going to be safe and we can continue moving. Now, if we move into the entrance is a special room. It can't be searched, and you don't need to backtrack into it. This is safe. There's light, beautiful light pouring in. It's exposed to the elements. Monsters don't live here in the entrance room. So this is where once the party gets to the entrance room, they're going to be safe. And once they're here, they can head straight back to town and restock. They can sleep at the inn if they'd like and continue on with their adventure. Well, that wraps it up for today's video. Thanks for watching, and happy Dungeoneering.